Now on BBC1, a major new programme profiles a living legend. In his own words, Nelson Mandela.
Well, Lord Nelson is a famous historical figure. The name Nelson is too famous for you just to throw it away. And I have never thought of changing it.
One of the things I like about Mandela is he's tough. If you're going to be a progressive, you have to be tough. Nobody intimidates Mandela.
It doesn't matter who you are, he treats everybody the same. He makes you feel like you're the only one in that room.
He's good, and people's hearts leap because they're saying, this is how we can be.
I remember shaking hands with him and looking at his face. And his face was beautiful, and then when you looked closer, there were 1,000 very tiny wrinkles, and I just thought, they have stolen such a precious amount of time from you.
The first appointment this morning is Prime Minister Helen Clark from New Zealand, and after that the Mexican president, and then the foreign minister from Cuba. Apparently he's got a message for you from President Castro, and he would just like to deliver that. So we gave him 15 minutes. And then,
one of the first things you notice about Nelson Mandela is that he is unbelievably busy. Every day is packed with meetings. Today it's especially hectic because there's a World Summit in Johannesburg. It's as though he's making up for the long years wasted in jail.
I see. We're competing with the children, sorry.
Kulu, then you go home for lunch, and then you go to the hotel in Sandton where you'll meet with Megawati Sukarnoputri. Yeah. I think the Prime Minister is about to arrive, Kulu, so we'll leave it at that.
It's not yet. All right, let's see.
We'll receive it later, yeah.
Good, we can continue afterwards.
Mandela is more than famous. There's a magic about him, an aura. Even the most powerful beat a path to his door, sometimes just to have their photo taken with him.
So what do we say to Fidel then?
Oh, give him my regards.
For a second.
Now you see there's many media here, they all want photos. It's almost as if he doesn't realize how big he has become, and I think that is amazing about him. He doesn't realize, the enormity or the excitement really that he creates. I don't think it's that he doesn't appreciate his own abilities. I really just think it's because of his humility that he refuses to become almost kind of a saint that people make him out to be.
But it wasn't always like this. As a young man, Mandela lived through a bleak time in South Africa's history. Apartheid meant 4 million whites ruling nearly 30 million blacks, who were denied their rights and treated as inferior. Mandela was impatient for reform. He didn't think peaceful protest would work, urged blacks to take up arms, and was condemned as a terrorist.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence.
With With a group of young activists who were set on forcing change, he left home and went to train with other revolutionaries outside South Africa. Accused of plotting to overthrow the state, he only just escaped the death penalty. Instead, he was sentenced to jail for life, trapped behind bars for 27 years. Mandela is in New York today, guest of honor at a glitzy film festival. These days he mingles with the rich and famous, often charming them into supporting his good causes at home.
Nelson Mandela.
And I'm very sorry my wife and grandchildren are not here today, because they always tell me that I am a has-been. And now that I've been invited for this august occasion, I feel they should know that there are some people who think that I can still perform some function.
I admire him personally because of what kind of person he turned out to be after what they did to him for 27 years. I don't always agree with me. He says things that I don't agree with. He has some analyses of some of the things that were done in my presidency that I think are completely wrong. But I think if any man on earth has earned the right to speak his mind, Mandela has.
While in town, the two former presidents team up to promote their campaign against AIDS in South Africa. It's a cause Mandela has championed ever since he retired.
Oh, very good. How are you?
How are you?
Very good. I didn't know that you are with in the Bill delegation.
Yes? You know Sandy Thurman.
How are you?
It's very good to see you.
That's the only way I can get in to see you is bring pretty girls in. I had to do that.
I don't mind a visit from young ladies without their partners,
You'll just have to witness us signing this agreement. We're going to work together and run the U.S. portion of UNAIDS Global AIDS campaign.
You and Peter are telling me to go get the money from Americans to fight the AIDS. That's what the deal is. As near as I can tell, this is one of those deals where you call me and say, my president. I have to tell you that any conversation we ever started together where he starts by saying, my president, the rest of the conversation is he's going to ask me to do something that I will wind up doing whether I want to do it or not.
Oh, that's not kind.
Mandela's story isn't the old cliché of a man who came from nowhere to be president. He was born in a remote village in the rural Transkei, but into a royal family. At 5, he was looking after his father's sheep and cattle. At 7, he was the first of his family to go to school. Up till now, he'd been called Kholishlala, it means troublemaker, but his teacher renamed him Nelson. As a boy, he said his only ambition was to eat well and to be a champion stick fighter.
My father was a ruling traditional leader in the place where I was born. And both he and my mother had never been to school. And therefore, they taught me about the tradition, the customs of our people.
Mandela was one of 13 children, the youngest of 4 boys.
My father was a polygamist. He had 4 wives. And I regarded all of them as my mothers and their children as my own siblings. In fact, I can go so far as to say, in my younger days, I didn't think it was a mistake to have a number of women, and because I was copying from my father.
When Mandela was only 9, his father died. He was taken to live with his uncle, the ruler of the Tembu tribe, who became his guardian. Mandela first learnt about leadership, sitting under a tree listening as the elders reminisced.
The way they told me about the old stories of bravery amongst our people, you know, I wished I had lived during those days. And they really inspired me.
At 19, he was packed off to study at Healdtown, a strict Methodist college. It introduced him to a world of politics beyond local issues. From his classmates, he heard for the first time about the African National Congress, the ANC, the party which was fighting for black South Africans.
People were not talking so much about traditional leaders, but we're talking about modern leaders. This opened my eyes to something totally different. And all that was shaping my attitude.
Back home, Rolish Lala, the troublemaker, wasn't ready to settle down. Tribal tradition dictated he should now set up home with a local bride.
I was being groomed for the position of a ruling traditional leader. But then my guardian, who was the acting king of the tribe, decided to get me and his son wives. The girl he wanted me to marry was in love with his son. And in any case, she was not my choice. I was at university already, and I tried to persuade him to let me finish my studies. So I said, no, you can finish your studies, she'll stay with me, I'll look after her, and so on. But by the time I die, I must have made arrangements for the two of you. So we decided to run away.
That decision took Mandela for the first time to the great city of Johannesburg, an experience that changed him and the history of South Africa forever. Back from New York, Mandela is on his way to open one of the many rural schools he's established with the help of big business, escorted by his presidential protection unit, and behind him in the convoy his assistant Zelda, whose job is to manage the demands on his time.
There's a lot of stamina, I think more than people of 20, 30 years old. He amazes us with his strength, really. He'll get off a plane from the United States and he'll fly to a province to attend to an event there.
Mandela has the use of Air Force Learjets and helicopters. Without them, he couldn't keep to his schedule or reach remote areas. He's 84 now. His knees are weak as the result of an old injury in prison, and at times he wears a neck brace for comfort. Along with his bodyguards, a doctor travels with him everywhere.
It's very quick, it's just up and down.
So you must start making coffee now.
Okay.
I have retired, but if there is anything that would kill me, is to wake up in the morning not knowing what to do. The only thing that keeps me going is the fact that I have a program. That is one thing that keeps me alive, and to stop thinking about all my problems.
The routine he's following, I think, comes from the disciplined way in which he lived for 27 years.
He gets up every morning, he does his exercises, he showers, he has breakfast, and the specific things that he eats to make sure that he's got a balanced diet. He won't grab a sandwich like we would do.
You cannot, after 27 years, change your routine. I really think, that's something that just comes with a disciplined mindset that was forced upon him in prison.
If you look at how he folds newspapers and how particular he is about his things and the order in which things are placed. You know, I think that really comes from spending a lot of time in a small space where he had no choice than to really fold the newspaper very particularly, and I mean, about his things at home as well. He's meticulous about making his own bed, putting his shoes in, you know, he wouldn't just kick off his shoes and leave them there. He would never do anything like that.
Yes?
How are you, sir?
How are you, Captain?
Very well, sir.
All right.
A crowd of children waits to give Mandela the kind of welcome reserved for pop stars. He devotes most of his time now to the needs of the next generation. Better education, better health. His children's charity has 1,000 calls for help every month.
What drives him really is the need to make a difference in people's lives. And he knows he's got the ability to do that. He may not realize the enormity of his spirit, but he realizes that he's got the abilities to raise funds. And if there's a worthy cause to support, he's happy to be used to support that cause.
The timetable has allowed exactly an hour for this event, just long enough to give them their share of Mandela charm.
And when he did that, they forgot about me, started cheering and so on. That's how I escaped. I may be held in no position, no power, no influence, but I can contribute in addressing questions of poverty and questions of disease and so on. I can mobilize funds to support children, because no country can succeed if the future leaders are not educated.
At 23, Nelson Mandela arrived in Johannesburg for the first time. In this segregated society, Mandela found a room in a blacks-only township. He said he saw more poverty there than he ever had at home. Like many new arrivals, he looked for work in the gold mines and found a job as a night watchman. There he saw at first hand the indignity suffered by blacks in a country dominated by whites.
He's a little bit thin.
Yeah.
I think you better have an X-ray. There you are.
But township life also offered the opportunity to practice his favourite sport. He trained every day and was good enough to spar with the local champion. Why did you like boxing?
Well, you know, it was one thing that made blacks famous. You remember that was the time of Joe Louis.
Did you think of yourself as a potential Joe Louis?
Well, that's what I thought. That's what I thought I would be one day, but I never was. I never was even a professional boxer.
For a good-looking, self-confident young man, Johannesburg held other attractions.
Our hero was Victor Sylvester, the chap who was a ballroom champion. And we tried to imitate him. Then we did the waltz and the tango, you know, and so on. but I was never a champion. But I like dancing.
At one point, you were a kind of man about town. I mean, you got all the best girls and...
No, that's true.
It's true, is it? You're not ashamed to say so.
Oh, no. I mean, it's history. People know. But
people know what, sorry?
Eh?
People know what, do you say?
I say people know that I had many girlfriends.
We think of him now, and the world thinks of him now as a great statesman, as an icon practically. And yet, he was a young man once. And I knew him when he was young, vibrant and warm and friendly and naughty.
Did you fall for him?
No, not in the sense that I fell in love with him, no. I loved him, but I wasn't ever in love with him, no.
When he was 26, Mandela married Evelyn Massey, a nurse, and they had 3 children. But he didn't settle down to domestic life. He enrolled as a law student and found legal work with the help of a man who became the most important influence on his life. Walter Sisulu, active in the African National Congress, spotted Mandela's potential.
He struck me at once to be the type of a man I had been looking for. I look upon him as a future leader himself. He had qualities which I knew would be useful in our movement.
Sisulu became Mandela's close friend and mentor and persuaded him to throw his weight behind the ANC.
My reaction to discrimination was that you can't fight it as an individual. You need an organization. And that's why I joined the African National Congress. The fellow who articled me used to say to me, leave Walter Sisulu alone. You will spend the rest of your life in jail if you associate with him. And that's what happened. But I didn't listen to him because I was now fired up, man, that this is the role that I should play.
Dankie, the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Good morning.
From his headquarters, Mandela's charities are organised. Fundraisers visit. The diary is planned. But however busy he is, there's always time for him to pursue his passion for influencing world events.
Santino?
Yes, good, I'm coming.
You'll get me these people too. You know, God Asma.
Yeah.
And then I would like to speak to the Pope. And then to President Putin. And then Sukarno Putri.
Okay.
Tata, the minister has arrived.
Oh, okay.
Flemish?
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you? No, I'm fine, thank you. We need your assistance, please, to set up a call between Mr. Mandela and President Putin regarding Iraq. Yes.
I've got friends. I'm friendly to Tony Blair, to Jacques Chirac, to Gerhard Schroeder. I'm friendly, I speak to them. And I speak also to other leaders. But now that I've lost power, they don't regard me as a threat, and they easily respond to requests that I made.
But do they listen to advice you give and opinions you hold?
Oh, no. Some of them do. You speak your views. You let them know. Santino?
Yes, good, I'm coming.
Is she there?
Yes, I'm coming.
Tell me this video message.
Yes.
Of Bangkok.
Yes.
What's happening to it?
It's going to be
It's supposed to be at 10.
At 10, yeah. It's now 9:15.
Oh, I see. She was.
Yeah.
I thought it was 9:15. No, it's a dinner. This.
Every minute of Mandela's day has to be properly used. Nothing irritates him more than time wasters.
That chap who spoke for the king, I almost kicked his backside.
I know, me too.
You know?
Yeah.
Firstly, he's not an impressive chap, but the type of things that he wastes time on, I was annoyed with that fellow.
No, I know. The more you tell them to stop, the more they go on.
Yes, quite.
No, I know.
No, we must tell them that we are in a hurry.
Yeah.
If people take more than the time given to them, we'll just
stop them. Yeah.
All people get irritable. He wouldn't be human if he didn't get irritable. Yes, he does. Especially if people take advantage.
Santana? Man, have you got the newspapers here? I didn't see them at all.
Yes, geloof. Koerante.
Yes?
Papa,
Yeah?
I'll have to get you the Sowetan.
Oh, I see.
I'll get it now.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Sometimes in certain situations he almost seems to be a bit formal and distance himself from a situation, but he's not like that at all. His personality, I mean, he'll really break up an atmosphere with one word. He's got an incredible sense of humor.
Yes? How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Are you married?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I see. How long did it take you to propose to him? Please sit down.
Thank you.
Imagine.
We're wrapped up in this clothing, you know?
We are going to come to the office one day, all of us.
Awesome.
Yeah, because there's only a few men here, so we'll just come.
All the men, you know, once they hear of it, they'll be here.
They can donate money to the foundation.
It was nearly 60 years ago that Mandela joined the ANC. He helped set up a radical youth wing, which soon came into conflict with a new strain of white supremacy.
Ek is 'n Afrikaner. My verhaal is die verhaal van 'n nuwe volk met 'n nuwe taal.
The election of 1948 brought the Afrikaner nationalists to power. They set up a political system which enshrined in law the racism that had long been common practice: separate entrances, separate seats, separate lives. Blacks arrested for not carrying passes in white areas.
Our policy is one which is called by an Afrikaans word apartheid. And I'm afraid that has been misunderstood so often. It could just as easily, and perhaps much better, be described as a policy of good neighborliness.
I despise them because they were despised by the entire world. They dressed in beautiful suits, silk shirts and silk ties, but they were like a grave. Beautiful outside and full of evil inside. And that's why I despise them. That's why I fought them. Yeah.
In a small office in downtown Johannesburg, Mandela and his fellow ANC activist, Oliver Tambo, went into partnership. The first black law firm in South Africa. George Bezos watched Mandela in action.
What I liked about him was his self-confidence, the assurance with which he appeared for his clients in court at a time when white witnesses, and particularly white women, considered it somewhat insulting to answer the searching questions of a black man. He would stand up and unapologetically continue with the cross-examination, oblivious of the discomfort that he caused by his presence.
Much of Mandela's legal work was defending blacks against past law offences. But it wasn't enough for him to fight injustice in the courts. He took his protest to the streets.
In Johannesburg, premier city of South Africa, thousands of coloured people went to attend a protest meeting called by the African National Congress.
Mandela was a leader of the defiance campaign. Although they risked jail in taking on the authorities, they were determined to maintain a policy of peaceful opposition.
We hated the apartheid regime. We didn't want to have anything to do with them. But our brains said, if you don't talk to these people, this country is going to go up in smoke.
The authorities didn't want dialogue. Instead, as the opposition to apartheid mounted, they tried to suppress it by force. Now one of the established leaders of the ANC, Mandela was arrested with 155 others, charged with plotting against the state.
They have been arrested because they're strong opponents of apartheid. The government is trying to prove that some are infected by communist ideas. That's a criminal offence in South Africa.
The notorious treason trial dragged on for 4.5 years, putting a strain on Mandela's professional and personal life. The office is shut, but Mandela's day isn't over. Tonight he's due at the wedding of the daughter of one of his most important benefactors. And Thabo Mbeki, Mandela's successor as president, is also expected.
Where have you hit on the president?
Oh, he's on his way, sir.
On his way?
Yes,
Okay, very nice to see you. Very nice.
The dinner is delayed while the party awaits the arrival of Mbeki, testing Mandela's patience.
Well, is it proper to start before the president comes? Let me have a samosa.
Three-quarters of an hour late, the president turns up and dinner can start.
We are hungry.
I'm sure you are. Is that so?
Despite the pleasantries at the table, Mandela has pointedly amended his speech.
In the late 30s, there used to be a president of the ANC. We used to say, oh, thank you very much. We used to say, I am the black Prime Minister. I can't come early to meetings. I must come late and all of you must see what a black Prime Minister in this country looks like. I think my president here has taken after that president of the ANC.
As Mandela leaves the dinner, a reminder of the emotion his very presence can arouse. Mandela's charisma has always attracted women. Outside the courtroom during the treason trial, a new face could be seen among the crowd. Mandela had met and fallen in love with Winnie Madikizela, a social worker. His marriage to Evelyn had ended in divorce, and he married Winnie in 1958, and she supported him throughout the trial until its collapse 3 years later.
When he met Winnie, it was the end of the other girlfriends, in a sense. He adored her. He loved her tremendously. Winnie was the main attraction in his life.
But life with Winnie was never going to be easy.
He telephoned me and jokingly told me that he had married trouble. His wife was up on a charge of assaulting a policeman. I defended her successfully. That pleased him no end, and that started a relationship. Amongst the three of us, I think that I probably defended her about 20 times during a period of 25 years.
Demonstrations against the South African government's strict apartheid policies flare into shocking violence.
March 1960, the harsh enforcement of the pass laws led to a protest at Sharpeville. Faced by a crowd of 10,000, the police response was savage.
The crowd refused to disperse. police opened fire into the crowd from behind a wire fence.
67 were killed, many shot in the back while running away.
The anger I had was one which was disciplined, which was not aimed against whites as such, but against oppression.
Along with fellow ANC leaders, Mandela made a public display of burning his pass and urged others to follow his example. The government declared a state of emergency. Membership of the ANC became a criminal offence. To continue his campaign, Mandela was forced to go underground. Mandela was now a wanted man. He kept on the move, travelled in disguise, stayed at different addresses. One refuge was in a white suburb of Johannesburg. A flat belonging to a left-wing journalist sympathetic to the cause.
About 5 o'clock that morning, I woke up with a creaking sort of in the dark. And I see that he's putting on long johns. He had told me that every morning at about 4:30, he goes running around Soweto. So I said to him, look here, you're not going to run around here. You know, I mean, a black man running around a white area at those early hours of the morning, they'd just grab him straight away. So he said, no, I'm running. So I said, well, I'm not opening that door. You know, the front door. I had the key. And then I saw him, you know, starting to run on the spot. So I said, you do this every day? So he said, yeah, yes, I'm going to do it, yeah, every day. And you know what? Tomorrow, you starting.
In hiding, Mandela was questioning whether the policy of non-violence could still be effective. His thoughts were turning to other methods.
He wanted to know a lot about war and what you do and a little bit of tactics and so on. And then he said, have you got any reading matter on it? And I said, yes, if there's one book that you must read, it's Clausewitz on warfare. And I took it out of the shelf, gave it to him. He straight away sat down, you know, at this table, and he was studying that hour after hour, underlining, writing notes. You know, I think that if the Cape Town Orchestra came and played there, it wouldn't have diverted him.
From being hunted by the state as a public enemy, Mandela is now given its full protection. Tonight, the flight from Johannesburg is carrying its precious cargo to London. Mandela is to be guest of the Queen at an official reception. At Heathrow, Zelda calls for help. Security arrangements for Madiba, as Mandela's known in South Africa, aren't up to scratch.
I've got a bit of a problem. We are in London on invitation of the Queen, and we've just arrived here now, and they've just told us that Madiba doesn't have any protection of any kind from the Metropolitan Police or Scotland Yard or whoever. So, I mean, it's totally unacceptable that he's not getting any protection here. Okay, please, man, Cecilia. It's okay, thank you. Okay, bye. The doctor is here and Madiba is there in the car and we've lost him now. And if anything happens to him now, I mean...
Hello? Hi,
Morning. The threat level against Madiba's life is quite high at the moment, and we were a bit taken aback that he had no protection. We do consider this an official visit because he's here on invitation of Her Majesty. You've got tea at 4 o'clock with Richard Attenborough.
Oh, I see.
Do you want a massage after that?
Yeah, that would be good. Hello? How are you?
Why is the threat?
Well, because of his remarks in public on the Iraqi issue and him criticizing certain countries for their attitudes and their policy towards Iraq. I had quite a few negative emails coming in from the United States specifically. I mean, some of them are racial, some of them are threatening him, bad language and so on. Unfortunately, there's people, unstable people in the world.
Morning, Dr. Mandela.
Won't you share tea with me?
George?
Yes, Tata. Well, if you... I don't want to... If you... you're a very busy person, we've got...
No. Let's have tea. Then I can be less busy.
Can I bring a juice?
Lord Richard Attenborough.
Hello.
Good, how are you?
Very well.
Good to see you.
Lord Attenborough, a long-term supporter of Mandela, has come to update him on plans to erect a statue of him in Trafalgar Square.
When more or less do you think the statue will be completed?
It'll be ready next spring, summer.
Is it?
Yes, he's started already.
Mm-hmm.
We have the money,
Mm-hmm.
and we have the agreement from the government, from the London Council,
Mm-hmm.
from Westminster Council, from etc. Still, the wonderful thing is, you see, they wanted to put it in front of South Africa House. Well, you don't see it.
That's right.
But where it is,
in front of the
absolutely
museum.
in front of them, and it looks all the way across them, and all the way down Whitehall, which I like very much.
Oh, Sir Richard.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm better for seeing you.
Oh, so nice to see you.
Very nice to see you.
You still look younger. What's the secret?
Oh, no, that's not true.
Please sit down.
Thank you.
Please sit down.
Are you well?
No, very well, especially when I see you.
Tony Blair, Conservative leader, the Tory leader, and then some friends of Donald Wood's.
Oh, very good.
And
very good.
And we're going to put it not in front of South Africa House, but in front of the National Gallery.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it has a wonderful view of Trafalgar Square. It is the most important position in the whole of Trafalgar Square.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
As unrest in South Africa grew in the early 1960s, Mandela argued for new tactics.
It was quite clear that the apartheid regime did not want to have any discussions with us. And I was the man who proposed that we should take up arms.
Did you have any doubts about crossing the Rubicon of violence?
No, I was determined that the time had come.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people.
Mandela was proposing to take on a state with the best armed forces in Africa. At first there was opposition in the ANC, but Mandela won the doubters over. With a small group of supporters, some of whom were white communists, he began experimenting with explosives.
The idea in my mind was not that we were going to win, but that we were going to focus the attention of the world on our demands. Some of this material, we bought it in the chemist, and when it worked well, then we knew that we had a powerful weapon.
In December 1961, the attacks began. 200 acts of sabotage in 2 years. Targets were power supplies, pass offices, and other government buildings. The aim was to avoid loss of life, but Mandela later wrote that if sabotage failed, he'd adopt other methods. You said you were starting with sabotage, but you said that if that didn't work, you'd consider terrorism and guerrilla warfare. How far is it right to go?
We never embarked on terrorism.
But you said you would if sabotage didn't work, didn't you? You wrote it you would.
Terrorism means any individual, organization, or state that targets innocent individuals. That's what terrorism is. We never did.
Mandela left South Africa to raise funds and start training the ANC's new armed wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, the spear of the nation. They recruited a small number of committed fighters who were prepared to confront the government.
We made it clear that your object is military targets. Part of my training was what they call demolition work. I was expert in exploding bombs.
The ANC was inspired by a revolutionary leader who triumphed on the other side of the world, in Cuba. If Fidel Castro could do it, so could Mandela.
All the people of Cuba had now taken their places under the banner of the revolution.
Luchamos ambos, África, Cuba. Así que juntos hemos marchado por un camino hacia la libertad en una misma etapa.
Castro supported us, and there is no greater service than to help a community to liberate itself.
Empapados de una doctrina revolucionaria, de un espíritu de lucha por la liberación, nos sentíamos apasionados solidarios de las luchas de los pueblos africanos.
There was more than a shared ideology. Mandela borrowed Castro's image as the heroic revolutionary.
Castro was sitting there, a tiny island, challenging this huge imperialist power. He became a hero to us, and the way he triumphed. For us, that was one of the greatest inspirations.
Mandela even dressed the part and sported a revolutionary beard. They called him the Black Pimpernel. The ANC's armed wing, equipped with weapons, was now a threat, but it was no match for the government's countermeasures. Had it been a more even struggle, many more would have been killed. In retrospect, Mandela makes a virtue of their failure.
We were keen to avoid the impression that we were a terrorist organization because we were preparing to take over, even though it was going to take some time, but we knew it would come.
The Mandela who traded on Castro's image now has a powerful image of his own. It's become a commodity. Lord Attenborough has finished his update on the statue and now discusses fundraising. The multinational Nestlé has already contributed to a charity Mandela supports. Attenborough suggests they could be approached for more if Mandela allowed the company a photo opportunity.
I know that if you said, I want more money, knowing Nestle as I do, if Madiba said, I want another 500,000 or another whatever it is for his own trust, you would have it like that. They are so desperate to reinstitute themselves in South Africa and to be seen to have changed their philosophies, and that they are now totally in favour of everything that he stands for.
No, that's very good.
May I ask him to ring you?
Yes, yes, please.
How shall I do that?
I have profited from my association with business, because they have supported my program, for example, of building schools and clinics. One of the things we must accept is that we have good men and women in all sections of the population. And a real nation builder must exploit that.
Yes, I'll give you my cellular number.
Wonderful. And I will ask the representative of Nestle to ring you to make a date. They are...
No, in the end.
Yes. But they are desperate to rectify their history. And they hero worship him like millions of people. If he said, I will have a picture taken with you when you give me your assurance that you will so and so and so and so and so.
He'll do it.
Give him 250,000, 500,000, whatever he wants.
Obviously, to be associated with Madiba means a lot, but people come from all other angles wanting him to engage in different things. Some of them may be laudable projects, but people overexpose him, they use him, they abuse him. I've learned to be extremely suspicious about people in this job, but you have to be that way.
Mandela's soft spot for children often delays him, even when he's hurrying to an appointment with the Queen.
What's her name?
While a corporation may have to pay for a photograph, children get it free.
Person, will you tell the other children that I love them? You will.
Just keep that right.
Yeah, just tell the driver we take that route as discussed around Buckingham Palace and then to St. James Palace.
Oh, this is very nice.
Among the Queen's guests is Margaret Thatcher, who once called Mandela a terrorist. Now she shares with him the honour of being a member of the elite Order of Merit. As Mandela would say, what's past is past. Even for someone as stoical as Mandela, a spate of trips abroad takes their toll. Now he's returning to the sanctuary of his home. When Mandela returned to South Africa from his military training abroad in 1962, it was a different homecoming. Agents of the government were on his tail. During a long night drive from Durban to Johannesburg, he was arrested.
One of the first things you are taught when they give you lectures is that you must know that one day you may be caught. Be careful and make sure that you are not. But just prepare your family things knowing that one day you go in jail.
Mandela was also prepared for his appearance in court. He made a theatrical entrance in traditional tribal dress. He denounced the proceedings against him as a travesty, a black man being wrongly tried in a white man's court. Found guilty of illegally leaving the country and inciting strikes, he was sentenced to 5 years in jail.
A remarkable demonstration by a crowd of several hundred outside the courthouse in Pretoria.
A year later, Mandela was hauled back to court. With 9 other comrades, 3 of them white, he faced new charges of sabotage and conspiring to overthrow the government.
The accused are Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, Walter Max Ulyat Sisulu, Govan Archibald Mbeki.
They pleaded not guilty and blamed the government for their actions. George Bezos remembers their words.
We admit that we did many of the things that you accuse us of, but we should not be in the dock. We were forced to do the things which are contraventions of your laws because we had no option.
The defendants knew that if the case against them was proved, they faced the death penalty.
I said to our chaps, we are going to die in any case. Let's disappear under a cloud of glory. Let's show them that we can use their platform to fight them.
Facing the gallows, Mandela turned the courtroom into a political platform with a dramatic speech from the dock.
The idea of a democratic and free society, it is an idea for which I hope to live for and to see realized. But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an idea for which I am prepared to die.
Outside, the crowds waited for the verdict. In the cells below the court, Mandela and his fellow accused tried to rest.
I was tired and I slept on the bench. And the warder came, said, Mandela, don't worry about sleeping now. You are going to sleep for a very, very long time. I told something that I can't repeat in the presence of a camera. But that's what he said. It was in the air that we were going to be executed.
There was a 3-week delay while the judge considered his verdict. Then he declared all but one guilty.
The crime of which the accused have been convicted, that is conspiracy, is in essence bona fide treason.
Right up to the time when the judge said, stand up for your sentence on the 12th of June 1964, we expected the death sentence. So there was a collective sigh of relief when he said life imprisonment with hard labor.
At the back entrance to the Pretoria court, large crowds gather to watch the accused being driven away to start their life sentences.
The vast majority of the white people expected the death sentence to be imposed, and they were disappointed that it was not.
What was their view of Mandela then?
He was a terrorist. If you asked 10 white people what was Mandela's occupation, 9 would not have known that he was an attorney. He was just a black terrorist.
Mandela and the other black prisoners were sent to Robben Island, a bleak outpost from which there was no escape. They had avoided the death penalty, but could not imagine how long they'd spend in jail.
Life was life in South Africa. But as we were being flown to Robben Island, the investigating officer said, you people, you can't spend 5 years. You will come out heroes, and the women, all the women will be wanting you. It didn't happen. The government wanted us to be forgotten by the outside.
What troubled me